didn't hear it, but it's recording. Okay, so Google Earth. The first thing you need to know is you want to use Google Earth Pro. It's free, but you have to download it, right? So if you use regular Google Earth, there's all kinds of functionality that you're not going to be able to do. And part of the requirement for your project is to include a map. Okay. We're not doing crazy fancy maps. We're doing like super easy, simple, straightforward maps. Okay. But you need to use Google Earth Pro because Google Earth doesn't have all the functionality that you need. Okay. If you are using the Mac version, some of the features, like some of the menus are different, and I can never remember where they are because I don't do Macs. So I can never remember where they are, but I can find them when I am sitting there and thinking about it, right? But they're a little bit different, so it's sometimes a little harder to find. All the same stuff is there, it's just a little bit trickier to find. Okay, so basic navigation stuff is up here, right? So like, where are we going? Where are we going? Right, that's all up here. Let's see, where are we going? We are going to Mount Baldy Road, Claremont, California. Beautiful. So you just put your address in there. You can put coordinates in there. You can put whatever, and it'll take you to where we're. Okay, not that part of Mount Baldy Road though. Okay, so to zoom in and out, I'm scrolling with my mouse. Okay, and where we are going is here. Okay, so actually, let me zoom out, just get ourselves oriented. Where's Chafee? Well, there's Trader Joe's. So, right. So you are currently sitting right here. Where are you? You're currently right here, right where my little paw is. Okay. So the way we get there is we get on the 210, 210, 210, 210, and then we keep going on the two. Wait, did I go too? I went too far. Hold on. I did. Where am I? Way too far. Okay, hold please. Okay. So we're gonna get off on Mountain, which is right. So campus is here, right? And so one way we can do is we can do the campus whatever, but that's kind of lame. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get off on Mountain, which is here. No, it's here. We're gonna do Mountain or we're gonna do Euclid? Let's do Mountain. Okay, so we're gonna get off on Mountain, right? And then we're gonna go straight up Mountain. And then we're gonna go up. Let's see. Mountain does this weird thing where it like goes like, it goes, how does it go? It goes, and then you end up on here. Okay, so Mountain does this weird like jogging thing where it turns. And so we end up over here. Okay, and then we're gonna go, and then it goes up around, there's a fire station there, and then there's a little turn thing here, and we turn right because we keep going up, and we keep going up, and we keep going up. And where we're gonna go is there is so you see all the like turnouts on the side of the road, right? So the turnout that we're gonna go, that we park on, is after there are two. I'm looking for them. Where are they? There are two tunnels. I'm too far. Where'd my tunnels go? There's two little tunnels, and it's like the third turnout after the two tunnels. Here we are. One tunnel, other tunnel, right? So they're tiny. So we go, so there's one tunnel, next tunnel. No, you can't honk your horn in there, children. Okay. And then we end up parking here. And we end up walking down here. Okay. What? Yeah, we're not going there. We're not going there. So yeah, we're not going to a super populated place where a lot of people hang out. But we will see people. There will be people there, but we won't see a ton. So then this is what those who walk down this little pathway. It's kind of steep. It's exhausting, right? We get down here and then we hang out. Here's the lunch spot, right? We hang out. We do some, you know, wandering, meandering, good times, right? We're not going to go up that far. We don't go to Stoddard Canyon. Is that what you're thinking of? We don't go up that far. Okay. So anyway, all right. So that's where we hang out. Okay. So I wanted to show you some tools for how to, just some things to use in Google Earth. So like I said, this is all your navigation for like zooming in, zooming out, and then like changing the direction of things is up here in the corner. But I just usually use my mouse because it's easier. I think it's more sort of intuitive. And then when you make your map, you're going to make a map of your whatever makes sense for your project. So if you decide to like, I am going to have like 3 different places where I do something, right? Your map is just going to be a simple, here are the 3 different places that I went. Here's a map of it. Ta-da. Right? Or if you decide I want to do some plant transects and here's where they're going to be, right? So whatever it is, we want a visual representation of where you are. So all of your little features up here are the tools for using that. Okay. One other thing I want to point out down here. So this computer, this is weird actually that this is set up this way. So if you look in the bottom corner, right, where here where it says Google Earth. So first of all, it tells you when the image was taken. One really fun thing to do. Do you see this little clock over here? One really fun thing to do is to mess around with time and see different images. So like, this is all, they don't have any images yet of this area, evidently. Come on. No? There we go. So that's an image that was taken in 2009. Right? Why is that? Why is that so different? There was a fire. There's a big fire. This is why it took me so long to finish my master's degree. There was a big fire. Right around in there. Okay. So big fire. Okay. So anyway, but you can kind of, so that's just sort of a fun thing, which you're probably not going to care about for your project, but you might. So it's a neat thing to know. So I'm just going to close that. So we're not looking at that anymore. Can somebody hit the beepy beepy? Does anybody know what the beepy beepy is? I'll go with it. So the other thing we need to do is we need to change the way that it's reading the coordinates. I don't know. This is going to be a great video with interruptions and beeping and the whole thing. Okay. All right. So where were we? I'm also going to turn the lights down a little bit so you can see better. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to change some things. So if you go to, there's all kinds of things that you can do to mess with view. One of the things that we want to do is we need to change our, is that it? No, options. So tools, options. Okay. Did you get that? I'm saying it loud on the video too. Tools, then options. Where you find this tool thing is different on a Mac, but it's there. We need to change our lat and longe to decimal degrees, because that's the standard way that most people use in the sciences. And that's how our GPS units are set. So that's one thing we want to change, because before, if you look down here, see how it's like degrees and then minutes and then seconds, right? That's a pain to do calculations for. So we just are going to change it to decimal degrees, and then it's better. Okay. And then there's all kinds of other things that you can do to like mess around with stuff, changing size of things and whatever. So that's fine. You can do all of that. So apply. So that fixed my lat longe and made it, yeah. Okay. The other thing we want to do is we also want to change our units of measurement. Yeah. To metric system. So change your metric system, change to decimal degrees. And then I think those are the main things to do. So then, okay, beautiful. All right. So, so that's one thing you're going to want to do. Okay. If you are wanting to mark a location, right? So you want to mark, I set up a, stayed in this particular area. I, did something. Okay. There's a couple different ways you can do it. So you see how there's like a little push pin, right? So one thing you can do is you can move your little push pin around like this. But the other thing you can do you see on the screen over here how it has numbers? The other thing you can do, and this is the better way actually, is you take your, wherever you do your thing, whatever the thing is, I sat in this spot and observed bees for 5 minutes. I'm just making up crap, right? You bring your GPS, right? And you take your coordinates of where you are. And then that way, when you're making your map, you just type the coordinates in, right? And so you just type them in here, and then the push pin will go exactly in the right spot. Okay. So I managed to hide my push pin accidentally. Cancel. Let's try again. Push pin. Okay. So I'm just going to put a random one here because I feel like it. I'm going to move it here just for funsies. Okay. So then what you do is you can give that bad boy a title. So it'll show up. So random. Nope. Let's get it. Random spot. I shouldn't call it random. I should call it haphazard spot. Let's be haphazard spot. Beautiful. Okay. And then check this out. You can include information. Like if you're like, I need information, I need to have logged some information. It won't show up on the map though. So it doesn't really, probably not useful for you guys. You can totally change your style and your color of your stuff, right? Of your labeling, right? And what it shows you. And then over here, this is where you pick what your little symbol is, right? So pick something that makes sense and not just something because it's funny. Okay, you're like volcano, I want a volcano. Okay, yen, yes, euros, that's what I want. Barbershop. So pick something that makes sense, but also the nice thing is you can change color so that it shows up well against all of the green, right? So you might pick yellow, you might pick different colors for different things, right? So like if you, or numbers, you might number different things, right? And so you can, yeah, so you can have all these different, and then you can also change your color if you're like one of these people that's like, I want everything like custom. You can pick a color, or you can even like do this thing where you're like, I want it to be peach. Okay, it's gonna be peach. There's my peach thing. Yeah. Okay. So that's how you mess with those. And then you can even change the opacity. Like, can you see through it or not? It's fun. You could go crazy if you wanted to. Okay. You can add your custom stuff, whatever. Okay. So that's how to mark up a spot. All right. So I'm going to say, okay, and it'll leave it there and it's labeled and whatever. Awesome. Okay. If you want to make a shape, so you're like, my study area was, it was this area. Right? So you click and you drag around and it makes a shape. And then you can put a title in, right? Where it says untitled polygon, you can put haphazard shape. Why does it keep doing that? Hap shape. Okay. And then you can change your, change my line to, let's do this color. Beautiful. Okay. And then the other thing I can do is I can change for my area, I can fill it whatever color I want. So I'm going to fill it yellow, and then I'm going to change my opacity so that you can see through it. Right. And then I want to get rid of those weird dot things. How do I do that? I don't know if I can remember how to do that. Anyway. Opacity. Let's change this to 0 and see what happens. So the line has no color. Let's see if that works. I could have just typed 0. That would have been faster. But now I'm committed. Now I'm committed. I'm gonna leave it at 13, see what happens. Anyway, there it is. Yeah. So that's to make like random shapes. And that is actually really tricky because you have to have a steady hand. You can also do lines. They call them paths. So we're going to call this one Pathy Path. And so once again, you can mess with all of your color and stuff, right? And all of that kind of nonsense. You can also make it so that it shows the measurement of how long your line is for you. Right? Which in smoots. If you don't know what a smoot is, I'll tell you that story another time. The different units of measure, nautical miles. I'll tell you about smoots later. If you're not familiar with smoots. So you should probably change yours to meters because that makes the most sense. So let's say I'm doing a line. So the way that you do a line is you click once and then you click the end and it makes a line. Okay, and that's path. Right? And it does a path like that. You can also do like overlay images. You're not going to do that though. And you can do other stuff. If you do, there's something weird with paths, if I recall. I'm just going to do a random one over here. So you can do where it's showing you individual like little segments when you turn your mouse, but I'm going to cancel that one because that's Ooblo. So just to recall, so you click. Oh, wait, I did it wrong again. Why am I doing that? So if you want to do a space that you fill in or don't fill in, just a space, a polygon, you need to hold it down and do it. If you want to do a path that's just a straight line, click, click, and it'll do a straight line for you. Now, that line doesn't look perfectly straight. Why doesn't it look perfectly straight?
Terrain.
Right, because of terrain. Yeah, so if I zoom in, right, you can see that there's a terrain situation happening there. Oh, I just went, sorry, cancel. I just went a little crazy. Anyway, right? So here's my line. Right? So, and then how would I do, those? So you can do those with coordinates too, right? So what you would want to do there, if you want to do a transect, take your coordinates at the beginning and the end, right? And then when you do path, what you want to do is notice as I move around, do you see on the bottom down here, lat and longe are changing? So let's say that you take you do a transect, you take your coordinates for your transect, right? The starting point, the ending point, right? And you want to map where your transects are, okay? So you say, okay, my starting point, and you just move the mouse until it reads what your lat and longe are. Right? So you look at it and say, where am I? Am I in the right spot? Am I in the right spot? Cool. Click. And then you move your mouse until you find, okay, where's my lat longe for the other end? And then click and you go, I thought I was doing a perfect east-west transect. Turns out it was not, but that's okay. Because that's the actual. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so you can do these like precision as well, right? Based on looking at coordinates when you're doing your clicking. Yeah, so you're not just guessing where it was. It's like you're using actual coordinates. Okay. And then the beautiful thing, of course, about Google Earth is that you can, mess with it to like zoom in on what you're trying to do, right? So like if you're like, all of my stuff is all in this one spot, I don't need this huge like image. I can just zoom in on just my area, right? And then what you might want to do is you might want to include some landmarks that might be useful to your reader. Who's your reader? Me, but think of it as each other, right? So another bio student wants to go do the same project you did, right? That's your target, right? Of who you're like writing for, who your reader is. And so you might want to include some landmarks just to kind of help that person see where you are. So maybe you include the landmark of like where the lunch spot is, or maybe you include the landmark of the turnout where we park or whatever, just as like a grounding point for whoever's looking at your map. Yeah. And then what you can do, so you get your map the way you want it. Now, there's all kinds of ways where you can save it and do all kinds of stuff in your Google account and like whatever. Here's what I recommend you do. Up here where it says print. Yeah. What I recommend you do is you go, oh, okay. Now I can give myself a title and a description if I like, which is nice. Okay. The other thing is if I've been naming my parts as I went, they'll show up here on the legend, right? If I don't want them to be on the legend, what you do is you just unclick them over here. So notice how it's saying down at the bottom here where it says layers, it's giving roads. Well, if you want to turn off the road names, right, you can do that there. If you want to turn off terrain so it all looks flat, I don't know why you want to do that, but let's say you did. Okay. If you want to get rid of borders and labels or places, so maybe you're like, I don't want to know where the, you know, powerhouse is. I don't care. I don't want that on my map. I just want my own stuff. Thank you very much. Okay. Then you can turn off places, right? So there's all these things that you can turn on and off. And then even your own things, you can turn the names on and off. So if you're like, I don't want to call that that's very distracting. I don't want to show it, right? I made it, but I've decided now I don't want to show it. You can click it on and off. Okay. And then, so I made some changes to my map. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of the printing option and I'm going to go make some changes. So I'm going to take off my shape because it's ugly. Okay. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to print. And now when I print, oh, but I didn't have it. Okay. So then I can edit here and I can click it. So I can get rid of the powerhouse stuff there too. Yeah. Okay. So I can get rid of all the things on my legend if I want. And then it just includes the stuff I want. I can change this. So, whoa, easy, easy. Especially because I can't capitalize correctly. Okay. Right. So, dun da da. Right. But you're not going to want to put something like that. You're going to want to put something like figure 2, map of the study area, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Okay. And then what you do is you can actually print it on paper. But one really nice thing to do is just save as a PDF. Right. And then that way, I'm not going to put it in Writewood. I'm going to put it on my desktop. Lame map. Save. Okay. So then what it's doing is it's saving it as a PDF. And then once it's a PDF, you can change it into other things and you can like stick it in, if you type up your actual paper as like a Word document or a Google Doc or whatever, right? Just note, if you do it on Pages, just don't save it as Pages because Canvas, you know this though, my Apple users. So you just, then if your map is a PDF, then you can like change it to like a JPEG format or something like that and just move it into your Word doc. Right. And you can adjust the size, you can crop, you can adjust the size, make it bigger, smaller, whatever, change its orientation, all that kind of stuff. This takes a while because they're including like all of the detail of the whole map, which it takes time. But anyway, yeah. So that's what I recommend you do is, and the thing is, once you get used to doing the maps, they're so easy that you know, you can kind of make it how you want it and then whatever. And then so real quick, let me just show you. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to just open up a new Word doc just so you can see. No, I don't want to browse. I just want, can I have a new? There we go. New is what I meant, not open. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So now I can take my, let me see if it'll let me just plop a PDF in there. I don't think it's going to, but I'm going to try it anyway. Copy. Let's see what happens, you guys. Paste. Okay, no, that did not work. Okay, but what I can do is I can totally convert this into dun 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 dun. I can edit And then what I can do is I can save at, I don't want to do that. I want to export. So if you've got Adobe on your computer, which you may or may not actually, you might have to find some sort of conversion tool on the internet. Export your PDF into something else. So as an image, images are nice because they are easy. You can just do whatever. So change it into JPEG, export, same folder. Right? Yes, there. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, I know you're going to take a minute because. Okay. Boom. Here's my lane map. Copy. Paste. Da da da. That was easy. Okay. And then since it's an image, I can crop it if I want to. Right. I can do all kinds of crop. I only want this part. Right. Move it where you want it to go. Whatever. Okay. Cool. Resize. And if you need help with any of this formatting stuff, because I know that the way you learn all of this kind of stuff, like how to manipulate Excel and Word and PowerPoint and all that, it's just, you can take classes, but they're lame because then they making you do stuff that you're never going to do and you forget right away. So it's not useful, but just playing around with it is how you learn this stuff. So if you're like, I haven't had that much experience playing around with this stuff yet, Sarah, I need help. Right. I'm more than happy to help you guys. Okay. So just let me know if you're like, I need some of that. I need some. Okay. Anywho, I'm going to stop recording, I think.